The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. Mets baseball in the zone. I'm Ralph Tyko of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I have one of the hosts with me. Robert Cole is absentia, but Mert is here. Marty Rose.
Yes.
You know what a pleasure. You know what a pleasure. There's some people who listen to this and don't realize how long we've been rehearsing this show since we're going on the bus to the YMCA from Jackson Heights to Flushing.
That's right.
To the worst neighborhood in the world when we were 10 frickin' years old.
That's right. That's right.
And we go to the Y, and before we talk Met baseball, remember who was a member of that Y and who played basketball for that Y?
Artie Stevenson?
Artie Stevenson. And we haven't ever talked about him for a long time. Did you know that he passed away at age 40?
I didn't realize it was age 40. I knew he had passed, but I didn't realize he was that young. Wow.
Wow. I can remember picking up a Sporting News or it must have been the Sporting News. And because we were exactly the same age, the three of us, basically.
Yeah.
And at 40, that shocked me. You know.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know how he passed away.
I don't recall.
I don't remember ever knowing, but gone is gone. Rest in peace. He was a terrific basketball player.
Yeah, very nice guy, too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That was a shock. So, but in any event, we talked ball back when we were 10 years old. I remember will the Giants and Dodgers move?
Oh, yeah.
And that was a big topic, and that was a heartbreaker. I'm doing this podcast that is really fun for me. It's loving baseball when we were 12 and innocent. And when we were 11, 12 years old, the Giants and Dodgers both moved out of the city. Heartbreaking for a kid, really.
Oh, yeah.
Especially a kid with no allegiance to the American League. And it
hit
basically
everybody
capsulizes everything wrong with franchise shifts, and how if an owner wants to take his team to another city, he or she should be forced to give the city itself the option of buying the team or finding another owner to take its place. You don't move. That's a slap in the face to kids growing up. All of a sudden, your team is gone and you're not old enough to really understand why.
Yeah, but they don't care. You know, it's like that famous line that I keep quoting all the time. It's always about the money. It's, you could say that about almost everything these days. You know.
Life, yes. Follow the money. Wayne Unger, our mutual friend from the Heights, says that. Follow the money, and that.
You know, you wonder if they would have given O'Malley the land that he wanted, would he have stayed,
I don't think so. From everything I've heard, all the history, he was a devious son of a bitch and was planning it well before 57, when the last year. Peter Trunk has talked about evidence that goes back where he was trying to get out of it, 53 or 52 or something like that.
Yeah.
And nobody will ever know for sure. But,
right. So probably even if they would have given him the property where the Barclay Center is now and the Long Island Railroad hub, he probably still would have left, because the deal with L.A. was just too good to pass up.
I think that's the case. And what can I say? I don't blame Stoneham, because he was gone beforehand. He was going to go to Minneapolis beforehand.
Right.
And he had good reason to. But the Dodgers were the most profitable team in the National League. So it comes down to, and it's the same way today, how much money is enough?
I know.
You only die once, It's his greed was insurmountable.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, Brooklyn was changing at the time, and people were moving to Long Island, and that was the whole thing about moving, getting that property by the Long Island Railroad where the Barclay Center is now. That was his whole argument.
Is that technically Queens?
No, it's Brooklyn. It's
Brooklyn.
Okay. Yeah, that was the spot, the exact spot where the Barclay Center is now, where the Nets play. Is the spot where that O'Malley wanted, because that's where the Long Island Railroad was, and that's where his customers were all moving. So they come out of the ballpark, they get right on the train, and they're home in a half an hour or whatever,
Wow.
So that was the idea.
Robert Moses, did he offer that?
No. No. He offered the spot, where they built Shea Stadium.
Well, that gave him an excuse, because he said, I want it to be the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Exactly. We are the Brooklyn Dodgers. Exactly right. Right. And he wanted no part of that. But like you said, he probably already made up his mind to go to L.A. anyway, because it was just so, just unbelievable offer they gave him out there with the land and everything. Jesus,
Right. How could one pass that up? Everything that's bad that's been said about O'Malley is justified. So I'm going to throw a memory in that you certainly remember. When Campy was hurt, it was in the winter of 57. So he never did play in L.A. And one nice thing that O'Malley did, he set up a night for Campanella.
I remember that,
In the old Coliseum, where everybody lit a candle, this, that, and the other thing.
It had 90,000 people or something showed up for that?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember that.
And if I'm not mistaken, Campy was given a set of golf clubs. That was just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But because O'Malley wasn't known for his
philanthropy.
Yes, that's a good word. So he did that, and I give him a lot of credit for that. And I will also say that I've never seen it. I've never been to Dodger Stadium. But from everything I've heard.
I was there once, Ralph. When me and Barn and another guy were taking that cross-country trip after I got out of the Air Force, we took a cross-country camping trip, and the last stop before we headed back east was Dodger Stadium, and we saw Tom Seaver shut out the L.A. Dodgers.
Wow.
And we got in the car and headed right to Vegas after that, starting our trip back east. But, it was great. It was great.
Let me ask you how Bernie, how did he handle that? Was he happy?
Well, he was happy to be there and watch the game, but, of course, as a Dodger fan, he wasn't happy with the outcome of the game.
No, okay. He had, right from the start, he remained a Dodger fan, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
A Dodger fan who kind of likes the Mets.
I don't know. He was too young. He was almost 4 years difference. So in 1958, he was only like 7, So,
right.
And he had his Dodgers uniform and everything, and he stayed true throughout. He did.
Yeah, I would have stayed true to the Giants if it weren't for the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
But I must admit, for the first year, maybe two, 57 World Series and the 58 season, I kind of rooted for the Braves. That was a great team.
They were great then. Yeah, no question.
Oh, deep as hell at every position. A little New York taste. They had Frank Torrey. It was just fun to watch.
Eddie Matthews, Henry Aaron, Joe Adcock.
Covington, Bruton.
Great.
I don't know if I told you I had a one of those loving baseball at age 12 things with Billy Bruton's grandson.
Wow.
And Billy Bruton married a woman who was Judy Johnson. I don't know if that name rings a bell.
That's familiar.
He's a Negro League player. If anybody asks, that's what the league was called in those days. So, save the Negro League. So Judy Johnson was a real star. So this kid's heritage is not only Billy Bruton, but Judy Johnson's.
Wow.
And it was fun. A very bright kid who was very communicative about his dad and those days, and Henry Aaron, and great team. Besides Spahn and
Lou Burdett,
you and Rush,
right,
and Carlton Willie.
Del Crandall was the catcher.
Right, and some backups. They had Bill Rice, Carl Sawatsky, Bob Hawk Taylor coming up.
But it had to be good to beat the Yankees in 57, no question about that.
No question at all. And I gave them a little sympathy in 58, and they promptly lost.
Yeah.
Speaking of those days, 1958, when we were 12, if you go to YouTube and you punch in Yankees on the radio, you will get tons of games from 58, 57, all the way through, and you get the combination of Mel Allen, Phil Rizzuto, and Red Barber.
Yep.
In one booth. I forgot. Never had an appreciation for the Yankees on any level. Mm-hmm. Mel Allen was absolutely freaking good.
Oh, yeah.
He could run a game alone. They didn't have an analyst, no one to chat with. If he gave the scores and Rizzuto too would give the scores in lightning fast, promptly, and who hit home runs and what was going on, almost as a filler.
Oh yeah, he was great. As a matter of fact, I think you told me, because I was in Vietnam when they had the Mickey Mantle Day, and you told me it was on YouTube, so I watched it. And Mel Allen got the second biggest hand to Mickey Mantle out of everybody.
Of all of them.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And DiMaggio was there that day.
He probably was.
He was at the end. At the end, they exchanged plaques, Mantle and DiMaggio.
Oh, okay.
That was absolutely goosebump time. They brought out a player from every year of Mantle's run. Right.
Exactly.
And it was guys that he played with that were just tremendous. And what's really sad, if you look at that, there's like 2 or 3 of them still with us, all.
Yeah. It's a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
We're losing guys every day. Look at last year. Last year we lost like an all-star team.
A Hall of Fame, an all-time all-star team.
Yeah.
Those guys can play anybody.
Yep.
Could be the best pitching staff, and Joe Morgan. Allen, that was a horrible year.
Yep.
And more of it was, including Tom Seaver, who would be alive if it weren't for COVID, would be alive.
He was he had that Lyme disease that took him down for many years. So if he actually had COVID, then he was already weakened, by this Lyme disease that he had for years, and that surely did it, man. Yeah, that did it.
So with Tom Seaver, let's take a segue and talk a little Mets. And
yes,
we've had, as you say, we had a week under our belt of games. I'm very frustrated that they can't, today was a good example. They couldn't put it on the radio on MLB.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, neither team had it on the radio today. So, but from what I could tell, the defense was really bad today, and the pitching wasn't good either. I think did Walker start that game today? I think he did. And it was Yamamoto. Yamamoto started the game today, and he made an error right off the bat, gave up a couple of runs right away. Betances looks just as bad as last year. Gesellman doesn't. I'm telling you, I'm really worried about the bullpen, and some of the defense hasn't been good either. I'm not that worried about the starters. I'm not worried about the lineup, but the defense and the bullpen are questionable, and maybe that's why somebody said today that they might have interest in this Maciel Franco, is a third baseman.
Yeah,
from the Royals.
I think I read that. Sent it along. Absolutely.
He's only 28, so maybe.
Yeah, he's got a little punch, and I don't know about defense, but the left side of the field kind of worries me defensively. McNeil was out of position.
Yeah, he's got no business playing third. No, they just got to keep him at second base. That's it.
Yeah. And you know what else they're doing while I gripe about the state of baseball? They don't play split squads anymore.
Not this year, no.
How is this going to affect player development? They're doing things. There's very few minor league teams.
Right, 4 teams, 4 minor league teams for each major league team.
Now, so it isn't arbitrary. It's the way it goes.
Yeah. There's AA, AAA, High A, and Low A, and that's it. So for every team, it's the same now.
Right. Well, I think we will. It's a two-edged sword. You've got talent like never before in the history of pure talent. These guys can do things in the field with the bat, elevation, this, that, and the other thing. Incredible talent. But the skills that are different to play baseball than just talent. And you've got to develop them. A hook slide. I saw a picture on Facebook today, and I'm going to pass it along, of Minnie Minoso making a hook slide into home plate, and it was a thing of beauty. You don't see stuff like that anymore because it can't possibly be taught. You don't have the 75 games, 75 players in camp. And those split squad games. I don't understand that.
Well, it's all this travel business that they're cutting down on. I don't know if it's just because of COVID or what, but everybody is traveling the shortest possible distance. That's why every team is only playing like 4 other teams that are generally right in their area, no more than in like an hour away. And that's what's going on.
Right. Right, but they were in the process of breaking down the minor leagues for a while before COVID got started.
Yeah.
On a happier note, you know what I'm getting used to theoretically, not that I've seen enough or heard enough games where it's been a factor, not a factory. But here we go. I'll get it out. Is the runner at second that starts there, the way they use it statistically, he becomes an unearned run.
Mm-hmm.
So they rationalize it, and it is rationalized in a way that it isn't all that bad.
Right. Right.
The pitcher isn't charged with it, and I could almost stomach it, maybe because I'm just so happy to have baseball back. I listened on the radio yesterday, and when the Mets were done, I listened to the Giants, and it was good announcers, top 8 announcers on both sides.
Yeah.
The Giants had can't even think of his name, I'm blank. But and they did complete games, and they did very, very well in setting the tone for what could be a much, much better season than last year. Last year was incredibly frustrating. And what with the handle that they seem to have on COVID, getting the shipments out. They're arranging to get needles in arms. The merger, Johnson & Johnson, and merged with somebody. And I'm a big anti-government, whatever. They never do a good job. Biden is doing a good job. That's Robert coming to join us.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right. How are you?
Good, but forgetful.
Okay. Okay. Robert Cole, ladies and gentlemen, the second part of the twosome that are Met Mavens, Robert Cole and Marty Rose. I'm blessed to have you both. We're just talking about everything from here to there, Robert. With the Mets, catch them up. Mert, we're talking about third base.
We're talking about what was mentioned today, that the Mets might have interest in this Franco guy from Kansas City, third baseman, because I don't think that they're happy with the defense this spring so far.
Saturday McNeil had yesterday McNeil had an awful day there, and I think they realized that that's not the answer. And Davis.
Well, if they will, why try that? Who are they going to play at second if McNeil plays third?
Well, I think they're just trying to move some guys around. McNeil is supposed to be the second baseman most of the time, and I think when they wanted to get a couple of the other guys like Villar or Guilherme in, maybe they'd play second and McNeil would move to third. But the way he played it yesterday, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, he's got to stay at second.
Yeah, and J.D. Davis just has a strong arm, but he gets a little wild sometimes, and I think that's got them a little nervous too.
How about Dom Smith in left? Does that bother either of you guys, or is he improved?
Well, we haven't seen much yet, Ralph. I know he struck out a couple of times today, but wasn't on TV, wasn't on the radio, so it's hard to judge when you're not seeing it.
Yeah, so. But he's adequate. Like we discussed before, and what they did a little bit last year is, in games, especially when they're ahead, late innings, they'll move him to first. Alonso will come out after he gets his last at bat, and they have Pilar that they can put out there in center and move Nimmo over to left field.
Yep.
Or Almora.
Yeah.
They've been playing Almora and Pilar a lot so far this spring.
Yeah.
I like Pilar. Pilar's been very hot.
The strange thing about him, and they were talking about it on the telecast yesterday, is that at one time he was an elite center fielder. Okay, he used to compete with Kevin Kiermaier for the American League Gold Glove all the time, and not much of a bat. And in the last couple of years, his defense has gotten poorer, but his bat's gotten better. So, who knows what to make of that? But
yes.
But he's a decent ball player. Almora was one of the highest draft choices a couple of years ago by the Cubs. I think he was picked like third overall or fourth overall, and he's just never really, materialized. But it may be because he hasn't gotten a lot of time either. So we'll have to see how that all works out.
Yeah, and prospects are a crapshoot sometimes.
Yep. But I mean, both of those guys can play defense, and so like I said, if the Mets get a lead, then they move Smith into first base, where Smith is the better defensive first baseman, and they'll move Almora or Pilar into center, and then Nimmo, who would be starting in center most of the time, would move over to the left.
Aren't some games going to be, I'm sure they are, interleague?
Oh, yeah. And in those cases, Alonso will be the DH, and Smith will play first most of the time, I'm guessing, and either Pilar or Almora will be in center, and then Nimmo will, slide over to left.
Okay. Lindor got his first 2 hits, and they are in negotiations to extend him. Am I off on that, or do they want to extend him? What's the status, Marty?
They said they were going to start talks up any day now for the extension. Okay. So, yeah, they got to talk about it for sure.
Yeah, and Lindor himself has said that he's open to renegotiating, he's open to an extension, but he'll only do it before or after the regular season. And
right.
And in my opinion, they better sign him now before the season starts, because if they let it go to the end of the year, like I think I've said on air here, I think he'll wind up with the Dodgers.
Oh, God, I hope not.
And then they got to talk to Conforto, too. So.
Right.
So
and Conforto could be tough because he's a Boris client.
Right. Well, we'll see.
Boris has taken a beating somewhat in the last couple of years. Not that he's going out of business, but
it depends how much the player wants to stay where he is, too. If he really loves it here, that's going to count for something.
You know why he loves New York? Because of the pizza. And seriously, I read about that.
Lindor said that.
Lindor said that. Lindor said that when I was pissed off the other day when it was on ESPN, and they spent all their time talking to Lindor and talking to some Korean guy who was a Mets fan, and it was awful. I couldn't stand watching the broadcast, and yet you want to watch because it's on television.
Oh, the 30 for 30 thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching that too. Yep.
Yeah, so. But
so where would Lindor have liked Frank's or Pizza Sam in Jackson?
I have no idea. I assume these guys must live in Manhattan, most of them, I guess. So I guess it's, Rays, the famous original Rays. There's probably 20 of them.
How about Gloria's in Flushing?
Wow, that was classically great. Gloria's was great.
That is very well put. Classically great.
Mm-hmm.
If they were around, they'd be sponsoring us right now.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
All right. We've been at it for a while. Anything you want to talk about, Robert, or anything you want to add? I want to talk about Sandy Alderson not having any idea about the culture of baseball. He picked 2 guys, Callaway and Jarrod, who everybody seemed to know that these guys were pervs.
Well, whoever his search firm is that does background checks doesn't do a very good job. That's for sure.
Well, it's not just that. I don't know. From what I read, you got to be inside the sport more than he is. But you can't fault his judgment of talent. Let's put it that way.
No. And, something else also, we were very, very tough on, Brody Van Wagenen when he was the GM. But he does deserve some props for the 2 drafts that he ran. because he drafted some guys that other teams passed on because they didn't think they were signable. This guy, Matthew Allen, who was considered the best high school pitcher a couple of years ago when they drafted him. Okay, he drafted him in the second round. Okay, everybody, all the other organizations said, no way he's going to sign. He's already going to college. Okay, Van Wagenen went over the space, the allotted money for that spot and got him signed. Okay, he also signed Beatty, the third baseman. Okay, Beatty was overlooked by a lot of teams because he was a 19-year-old in high school, senior, playing against younger players. He had a terrific year, but a lot of teams said, well, it was because he was an older, more mature player playing with young guys, and he looks like he may be the real deal. So,
I saw that they moved him up to possible for next year.
Yeah,
on the expectations. In
fact, he wasn't he the starting DH today, or he was supposed to be?
He was. Yep.
Okay, so you have those guys. He also drafted a pitcher that from Mississippi State that everybody said was going to go back to school this year, and again, he drafted him and he gave him more than the slot money. Okay. So the guy signed with the Mets, and he's in camp with them. He's considered a top pitcher. So, of all the lousy deals he made, he did run a couple of good drafts. So we got to give him props for that.
Okay. Well, what I had in mind was the personal stuff that was Callaway and the other guy, not so much the baseball thing. But good to give him props because we were hard on him.
Yeah.
Cano, he couldn't have broken even with Cano and Diaz.
Cano and Diaz, if Diaz has any kind of a year this year, okay, the problem is Kalenic, who they traded, the young player, I mean, he's supposed to be a budding superstar. He's hitting the ball all over the place in spring training for Seattle. So, I mean, that could come back to bite him. So, we'll see.
Okay. Mert, anything you want to close with?
No, I think, we got to see more. They got to be on television a little bit more so we can get a better look. And I hope the rest of the games are all on the radio at least. That's really upsetting.
Well, there's only like 2 or 3 games total on the radio this year, Marty.
Out of all of them, really?
Yes.
Neither team?
I posted that. There's only like 3 games on the radio. There's a few more games on SNY. Tomorrow they're on SNY. And the interesting thing, too, on the broadcast yesterday, they mentioned they're not going to be the announcers are not going to be traveling on the road at all this year.
Yeah, I saw that. That's insane.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they did last year, I guess.
Right. Yeah, they're going to be doing the road games from Citi Field. And I'm wondering now whether that's going to be a permanent thing because, I mean, that would save them a lot of money, SNY a lot of money. And remember who still owns SNY for the most part? The Wilpon.
Yes, this is true. Oh, God.
Yeah, so,
the nightmare continues.
Because Keith Hernandez said on the broadcast yesterday that when the team is out on the West Coast, he's not even going to bother to go home. He's going to stay at a hotel because the games won't get over till like 3, 4 in the morning, and it wouldn't pay for him to drive all the way to Connecticut. So,
Long Island, whatever.
Yeah. So I have to wonder if all the teams are going to start doing that because I mean it would be a savings on money, for not sending the guys on the road.
Well, I think
these
it's the COVID thing.
These are millionaires who's just owning it. Their value goes up year after year after year after year. Why? And they get the tax write-off. What are they saving it for?
I gotta think it's the COVID thing more than anything else, with the not traveling. Well, you'll find out next year for sure. Either way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we will. Right. The bastardization of the game makes me sad sometimes. That's all.
Yeah. All right, Ralph. When's our next 2 weeks again?
2 weeks from tonight. And thank you both, Marty Rose, Robert Cole. I'm Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all. Happy trails, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.